Hello, this is Burhain Selassie, the Orthodox Catholic One. Today's video is called the Qur'an Challenge. The strange thing about the Qur'an is that it constantly has God speaking, claiming that He is the source of the Qur'an, whereas the Bible rarely has God doing any such thing, never having to constantly remind the reader, the audience, that He is ultimately the author of the book. The writer of the book might say, "Oh, by the way, God inspires the scripture." That's done, I know, once in First Timothy, but other than that, you'll very rarely see it. And so, the fact that you're having to constantly repeat it is actually a reason for doubt. But anyway, the Quran goes a step further than this. Further than it's that it goes on to brag that it's such a wonderful book, and insists that no one could even make something even remotely similar, not even a single surah, a chapter of the Quran, because the Quran is so great and wonderful. We see this found in several Quranic verses. Here are a couple of them. In Surah 17, we see in verse 88, it says, "Say, if mankind and the jinn gathered in order to produce the like of this Quran, they could not produce the like of it, even if they were to each other's assistance." So there's no, I mean, you can't even. You get a group of people, you can't even come up with it because it's so great. And then another one in chapter 2:23, it says, "And if you are in doubt about what we sent down upon our servant Muhammad, then produce a surah like the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful." Now, the strange thing is, there's a number of extremely simple surahs in the Quran. They're either simple or very short, which makes this challenge extremely ridiculous if you were to take these into account. For instance, Surah 109 says, "Say, O believers, I do not worship what you worship, nor are you worshippers of what I worship, nor will I be a worshipper of what you worship, nor will you be worshippers of what I worship. For you is your religion, and for me is my religion." Now, that doesn't sound very complex at all. It's pretty simple. I do this, you don't do that. You don't do that, I do that. So, I mean, the pattern's easily reproducible. It's very predictable. Anyway, here's, and that was the whole surah, by the way. Anyway, apparently this is too difficult for us kafirs to reproduce because we're so ignorant and dumb. Anyway, here's another one, Surah 108. "Indeed, we have granted you Al-Kawthar," that's another Arab tribe at the time, "so pray to your Lord and sacrifice to Him alone. Indeed, your enemy is the one cut off." So that's another very simple surah. But apparently, a Muslim will tell us, well, if you go into the Arabic, it's much more poetic and complex. It's still very simple. And even if it was very complex in Arabic, somehow poetically, it's still, the message is extremely simple. Anyway, and that was just a mere 3 verses. This surah does not look complicated at all. Yet apparently the person that made the Quran thinks that producing 3 lines would be like landing a man on the sun. If someone handed you the surah, would you automatically be able to detect its divine origin, or would you just assume some human wrote it? Just 3 simple verses. Anyway, here's another one, Surah 106, "For the accustomed security of the Qarash, their accustomed security in the caravan of winter and summer, let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them, saving them from hunger, and made them safe, saving them from fear." Okay, that was short, but apparently impossible to reproduce anything similar to that. Here's another one, Surah 103. "Now is this divine? By time, indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience." Oh, so eloquent, so divine, so only God could do such a wonderful job. But again, just 3 verses, there's no reason at all to assume that this is from Allah, or to assume that no human being could match something of this grand caliber. The Qur'an does not seem to state explicitly who is the judge, and by the way, in that chapter, of what qualifies in being like the Surah. But it would seem most logical that it would be the disbeliever of the Qur'an, since he is the one that must be convinced that the Qur'an is from Allah. The average Muslim, on the other hand, would never concede that the unbeliever has made a surah like that found in the Qur'an, because doing so they would essentially admit that the Qur'an is a fraud, that there's nothing divine at all about it. So essentially, stop being a Muslim. Anyway, here is a sample of something that could easily be thought of as a surah. Now here it is. If there were 2 valleys full of riches for the son of Adam, he would long for a 3rd valley, and nothing would fill the stomach of the son of Adam but dust. Anyway, does this sound like it could be a surah, or at least part of one? Why or why not? Anyway, this is Untitled Chapter Catholic 1 taking the Qur'an challenge.